Excellent. You guys will hear about SpaceX? Do you guys know what SpaceX is? No? You do? Explain what SpaceX is.
It's Elon Musk's private space industry, so that you can send people to space private.
Yes, like citizens, like regular citizens. You hear what happened? According to what I just read, apparently they had like a test like launch and like landing, and it successfully like launched and landed, and then after it landed, it exploded. Yeah, there was a methane leak. Nobody died, as far as I know. That's how, we can kind of like, Elon Musk. But like, obviously, if somebody died, that would have been an absolute horrific tragedy. I don't know. It's interesting. It's like I watch all these like old films about like NASA, and the detail that they go into just to make sure something works. And it's like you can't cut corners with that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that he did, but hey, you know what? Everyone, lauds NASA for like the Apollo missions. There was one Apollo mission that the astronauts got stuck in the capsule. It was like it hadn't launched. The astronauts were stuck in the thing, and then the thing caught on fire. Yeah, and they died. Like, unfortunately, like that stuff happens. I mean, I don't want it to happen, but like, it's like they were like, oh, okay, we have to correct these mistakes. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I don't know, the SpaceX thing, Elon Musk. Anyway, as for today, ladies and gentlemen, as for today, I have a little bit of a multiple choice challenge for you. I've been trying to experiment with different types of multiple choice challenges. In the past, when I had a full class that was here that didn't have the restrictions of these barriers that I could get into groups, I would do multiple choice challenges where I would put you into smaller groups, and we'd have like 6 groups, and we'd do like a little competition with a whole ton of questions, because I wanted you to get used to how these AP Stat multiple choice questions are worded. And I've been trying different systems out. Like quizzes is one thing, but quizzes you move like fairly quickly kind of through. And I wanted to slow it down a little bit to give you an opportunity to read the question, to kind of like stew on it a little bit, and then ultimately make the choice that you wanted to do. And I landed on Kahoot. Now, obviously, some of you already know what Kahoot is, but I created something that is going to work with what I'm going to show you. So what I did was I created a Kahoot with a whole bunch of questions. The questions are very specifically ordered and numbered. And you're not going to see the Kahoot up here, but you are going to be logged on to the Kahoot through computers, phones, what have you. That's up to you. Then I am going to show you the question in real time on the screen right here. Now, this is going to be a little bit weird because the people at home, they're on like a 5-second delay or something like that. And again, that's what I've been trying to balance. It's like if I'm showing you something live here, but they're on the Kahoot website, the Kahoot website's working in real time, but the video that they're seeing is like 5 seconds behind. So again, this is what I've been trying to balance in terms of multiple choice challenges. Couple of reminders. How many multiple choice are on the AP test? Second? 40. And how much time do they give you? Hour and a half. They give you 90 minutes for 40 questions, multiple choice. That averages out to 2 minutes, 15 seconds per problem. Now, my goal is to get you faster than 2 minutes, 15 seconds per problem. Because if I can get you faster than 2 minutes, 15 seconds per problem, then you will have time left over at the end to go back and check those multiple choice questions that you may not have been too sure about. That is kind of the idea there. Generally, my strategy for multiple choice questions, if you have that many questions over that long of a time span, my strategy when I do that kind of stuff, if I were a student, was I would go through each question. I'd attempt to answer it if I could. If I felt unsure about a particular answer, maybe I'd fill in the bubble, but I would make a note of that particular problem number and come back to it. And of course, the ones that I skipped, I would come back to as well. You have to be fairly swift when you decide to skip a question and come back. Because you don't want to spend 5 minutes on a problem and then be like, well, I better skip it now and come back. Because at that point, you better abandon that problem. Well, at least fill in the bubble for something. Because you never know. You could guess and get that thing right. Now, you guys did Kahoot like back in the day, right? Cool. Do you remember how many answer choices they give you? 4. This is another issue that I'm having. Kahoot only gives me 4 options. But on the AP test, how many options do you have for multiple choice? Yeah, you got 5. So I've specifically chosen questions that don't have E as the answer. So just so we're all aware that E is not the answer to any of these questions. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what happens with this because again, this is all new. I've been trying to figure out a multiple choice challenge for you guys for most of the year because it's kind of been chaotic, but this is where we're at. So as you guys are getting at your Chromebooks, and yes, thank you for preemptively doing that. The rest of you online right here, I would ask that you leave a comment in the chat. That would be fantastic so that I have that for my records. I see 12 of you so far right there. Leave that comment in the chat, and that would be wonderful. Oh, yeah. I only have this one, which I believe I can let you borrow if it works. What brand is it? It's just a Chromebook HP. And this is this is an HP as well. Now mine is fully charged, so it should last. But let's just see if this works. If it doesn't work, you may just have to borrow from someone else. Yeah. Okay. Now, for those of you in the chat, obviously you do have your screens open right now, the Chromebook screens. If you want, for those of you in the chat, you could open up Kahoot on your phone, and then you get the multiple choice things there. But obviously, everyone here, you're kind of doing your thing. I would suggest you can have your notebooks out if you want, because this is just a practice. But keep in mind, there is a limited amount of time per problem. You can have a piece of scratch paper out if you want. That's up to you as well. I would strongly suggest to have the calculators ready because you never know when you're going to have to quickly calculate something. But I just want to make sure you know, so you have all of the proper supplies that you need. Trying to set this up. I want to center this a little more. There we go. Okay. Let me get this set up. I'll show you the code and where you have to go. Let's see here. Duplicate. Chapow. There we go. There's my code right there. It says to either go to the Kahoot app, but you guys are going to go to kahoot.it, which is weird. It's not .com, it's .it. Please, when you enter your name, if you would, obviously put your real name, thank you, because it's like, if you're putting in like, I don't know. I'm just thinking about some of the names that have popped up in my live stream, with people's usernames on YouTube and stuff like that, But obviously, this is just a practice. Whatever you end up getting on this is not going to reflect anything in terms of a grade. Speaking of which, just so you are all aware, I am going to be assigning a minor in regards to the first chapter that we covered on hypothesis testing. Just please keep that in mind. I am going to be assigning a minor on that chapter from hypothesis testing, the one with 1 proportion Z testing. So please be aware that I am going to be posting that at some point today, and we'll kind of get that thing rolling. So now, while you guys are finishing that, and just in case, let me put the code to the side. Let me just show you an example as to what this is going to look like, just so everyone is on the same page. 5382632, just in case you didn't sign in. So I've picked all of my questions beforehand. Here we go. I've picked all of my questions beforehand. Let me show you a question that I am not going, it's not a part of the quizzes. It's not a part of the quizzes. So what I'm going to do, you'd have to read it from there. No. I'm going to have the question. It'll focus, of course. Come on, question. There we go. I'm going to have the question as zoomed in as I possibly can. And again, for those of you online, I know that this is a little bit of a hassle, but I am going to read the question clearly. And then obviously you have the opportunity to kind of check that out. Now, obviously there are some instances like right there for those online, that number is a little bit in the glare. So I would be sure to tell you what that number was as we go throughout these questions. It's going to be interesting. Again, never tried this before. I love trying things for the first time. But again, this is not the question. This is not a part of the quizzes for today. And again, keep in mind, just a reminder, the question's not going to be E because, well, on Kahoot, you can't have an E. Did I say quizzes like multiple times before? Yeah, I probably did. Whatever. Anyway, cool. So let me just double check the Kahoot because what's going to happen is I'm going to have to keep flipping back. I'm going to have to keep flipping back to, what's the word I'm looking for? Go to the next question because Kahoot doesn't do it automatically, but that is honestly what I kind of like about it at the moment. So, right. Just double checking the chat right there. I have the number right there. Cool. All right. In the chat, again, I have that right in front of me right here. If you haven't joined the quizzes, please make sure that you do. I'm going to get that first question ready to go. What I'm going to do kind of to, what's the word I'm looking for? To kind of help along this process is I'm going to read the question and then actually click to go to the next thing on Kahoot, which will then start the timer. So let's start with this. I'm going to read the first question. Then I'm going to click start, and everything will start popping up on your screens. So here is this first question. In a random sample of 1,250 adult drivers, 450 said that they would cut their driving by 10% if this significantly helped the environment. It says to find a 95% confidence interval estimate of the proportion of adult drivers who are willing to cut their driving by 10% to help the environment. Now, like I said, I'm going to flip and start the timer, and then I'll flip back so you can see the question. Start. It says, I just want to make sure it goes 3, 2, 1. Boom. There we go. Did the options pop up for you guys? Oh, snap. Okay. I apologize. Again, haven't tried this before, but it's always going to be A, B, C, D like that. Always. I chose not to shuffle them. It's always A, B, C, D like that. I thought I had those all worked out. And again, the answer is never E. Oh, wait. Oh, I have an idea. Yeah. Absolutely, yes. Yeah. There we go. I figured out a little system. I froze the screen. So yeah, let me make a note of this. Triangle, diamond, circle, square. So for those of you in the chat, the timer is going to run out on you. Chapow. Ooh, interesting. Okay, let me unfreeze that. Chapow, and show you that. And I want to talk about this very briefly before I show the next question. Again, this is all brand new to me. I'm going to put little symbols over here. So the triangle is A, and the circle is C, and the diamond is B, and the square is D, and I made sure not to shuffle anything. So there we go. So it looks like the majority of people chose B or D. The majority of people chose B or D. Let's flip back to the question real quick. B or D, similarities and differences. They both have 0.36. They both have 1.96. I mean, they all have that, so cool. Well, B and D both have the proper setup for the standard error. They both have the square root of a fraction with 1250 on the bottom. A and C don't have the proper square root around the proportions as they should. And obviously E, I told you E was never going to be the answer anyway, but that 1250 should be in the square root. So it comes down to what's on the top of that fraction in the square root. I can see why people would have gotten messed up by the words 10%. But 10% doesn't have anything to actually do with the calculation. They're just saying that, well, in the sample, 450 out of 1250 said they would cut their driving by 10%. 450 divided by 1250, I'm going to take a wild guess right now. Is that 36%? Yeah, as several people are nodding yes, I'm assuming you did that calculation. That's what you have to put in the top of the fraction. The actual P hat and Q hat. Okay. Let's see how this next one's going to work. Again, I love the exhilaration of trying to figure something out on the fly. Okay. Again, I'm going to show you the next question, and then I'm going to click next, just so we're all on that same page. Here we go. In general, how does doubling the sample size change the confidence interval size? That is the question. So let me just move this over a tiny bit again to kind of get out of the glare. Cool. And I put the shapes on the side. Hopefully you can see that in the chat as well. Let me flip this over, click next, next. It says question 3 because this is actually, there we go. Boom. Perfect. How does doubling the sample size change the confidence interval size? Oh, Chris, did it work, by the way? Okay. What are you going to do for the rest of the day?
Well, sometimes you accidentally gave my computer to a tech guy, thinking it was his. So I had to go to the office to get a loan, and they gave me the wrong charger, and instead, I have to go back at 8 o'clock, or I'll still have to read it anyways.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
There we go. Okay, so flip that back. Boom. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Let me see what this kind of did here. So 11 chose that, 4 chose that, 3 chose that. None of you chose yellow. Good, because it wasn't the correct answer. Let's flip back here. In general, how does doubling the sample size change the confidence interval size? Well, the confidence interval is dependent upon the margin of error. The interval size is dependent upon the margin of error. And the margin of error for what we've been doing, I'll just write out the full thing. It could be this one. There are other versions of the confidence interval there's actually things called like T intervals, and there's things where you can do it with a quantitative data as well. But regardless of how you do it, regardless of what type of data you have, that N, that sample size, will always be on the bottom of a fraction in a square root. It will always be in the bottom of a fraction in a square root. And if you double that sample size like that, now I did not teach you algebra 2. I did not teach you algebra 2. But you are allowed to take this 2 and kind of remove it in the following way. That is the same thing. That is the same type of calculation. I doubled the sample size. How does it affect the interval size? Well, it's 1 over the square root of 2. You guys take trig? Some of you guys took trig. What is cosine of 45 degrees? Huh. You took trig. Square root of 2 over 2. Square root of 2 over 2, if you looked at that decimal, square root of 2 over 2, I believe would be something like this. I believe it would be something like this. Or no, square root of 2 over 2 would be like 0.707 or something, right? Nice. Well, that's why I look at 1 over the square root of 2. What does it do to the sample size? Oh, I see. This 1 over square root of 2, I believe, is equal to 0.707, which means that it increases the sample size 0.707 in each direction. What was the answer, by the way? D. Oh, that's right. It divides it by that because it's on the bottom of the fraction? Oh, snap. Yes. Okay. Somebody do the square root of 2. Just the square root of 2. Just the square root of 2. 1.414. There it is. It divides the interval size by 1.414. So, now here's the thing. I would wager that the majority of AP students doing this question on the AP test would, right or wrong, they would get it done in like 30 seconds. Right or wrong. Either because they knew it or because they thought they knew it and they thought it was easy, cool. And they get it and they move on and they don't even think about it twice. And that's fine for, to a point, obviously. But if you spend 30 seconds on this problem, what about the additional minute 45? What could you do with it? You could. Or you could bank it for other problems. You could go use that time later on to check it, obviously. You could bank that for checking time later. Or you could know in the back of your mind, okay, I have an extra minute and change for a more difficult problem. You have to budget your time on these multiple choice questions. People have told me in the past, because I'm not allowed to proctor your test, by the way. I am not allowed to proctor your AP test. I'm allowed to proctor other AP tests. But I've been told by AP proctors that they'd get to like the multiple choice section and they'd be like, okay, guys, 10 minutes left. And kids would look at them like a deer in headlights because they realized, crap, 10 minutes and I have like 15 problems to go or something like that. You have to budget your time. Don't rush, but at the same time, don't dawdle. It's a weird balancing act, as everything always is. Okay. Next question. I wanted that question. Yes. Yes, absolutely. This is going to be a little bit of a backtrack. This is going to be a little bit of a backtrack to a previous chapter. Previous chapter right here. I know, right? I haven't started the timer yet. At the right is a computer output. There it is. I'm looking at the live stream right now. They can make out those numbers to an extent. But at the right is a computer output for a regression analysis involving starting salary in thousands of dollars and college GPA. What is the equation for the least squares regression line? I'm going to start the timer now. see what we got. All right. Boom. Okay. Much better shape there. There we go. All right, let's take a look. This thing right here. As I've taught you, as I've tried to explain, most of this information is not even needed in regards to this problem. Most of this information is not even needed. In this computer output, the numbers that are honestly needed are the coefficients, or maybe in some cases the r squared. Now, this problem doesn't require you to use the r squared, but they really wanted was the least squares regression line. The coefficient on the constant being the y-intercept, the coefficient on the GPA being the slope. Yeah, it should have been this one. The only thing that I would change, the only thing that bugs me about these problems, should have a hat on that salary. But whatever, that's my thing. People's heads get cold. All right, so this was question. Here we go. So now jumping ahead to this question. Ooh, I like this question. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share this one, and then I'll start the timer in a little bit. It says a confidence interval estimate is determined from the summer earnings of a simple random sample of n students. All other things being equal, which of the following will result in a larger margin of error? And they give you 1, 2, and 3, a greater confidence level, a larger sample standard deviation, a larger sample size. Again, keep in mind the answer is not E. Let me flip this over, start the timer. Oh, I was just looking at the updated thing. That's pretty cool. There we go. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Look at that. Ooh, okay. Let's take a look. So I'm just looking at, okay. It seems pretty even across the board. Most people picked either A or C. Okay. Let's talk about this. What will result in a larger margin of error? Again, the margin of error, plus or minus, pretty much, well, for the examples that we have done, there we go. That calculation right there. Now, I know they say larger standard deviation. Technically, that is the standard error. But we'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, if you want a larger margin of error, yes, you want a larger confidence level will give you a larger Z-star. Yes, it will. If you go from 95% up to 99%, that will increase the size of the Z-star and increase the size of the margin of error. Okay. A larger sample standard deviation. I know they probably should have said standard error in this case. which would have been the square root of p hat q hat over n. But yeah, if you have a larger standard deviation, then yeah, that would cause that to be larger as well. Even if you had quantitative data, there is a way of calculating that using sigma, and it does the same thing. It causes that thing to be larger as well. What will a larger sample size do? What will a larger sample size do to the value of that margin of error? Yeah, it'll decrease it, it'll shrink it, because it's on the bottom of that fraction. Because if you're dividing by a larger sample size, that will cause that square root to be a, well, larger number on the bottom of a fraction, which when you divide will cause the margin of error to be smaller. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Flip that. Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna put the next one up though. I'll choose for you then. Here we go. Number this one. I don't know what number this is, but it'll work out. Two confidence interval estimates of the same sample are 72.2, 77.8, and 71.3 to 78.7. One of those estimates is at the 95% level, and the other is at the 99% level, which is which. Again, keep in mind that the answer cannot be E because, well, Kahoot doesn't let me. So flip that, do that. Here we go with the next question. Oh, did I freeze that? Yeah, I freezed it. Good. Oh, there we go. It actually clicked over already. Well, let's see what we got here. I picked it for you. You got it right. So these are the choices that we got right here. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's interesting. Most people pick C and D. Most people pick C and D. Let me flip back, kind of look at this real quick. It says that, or C and D, it says the question cannot be answered without knowing the sample size, and D says this question cannot be answered without knowing the sample standard deviation. Well, it says two confidence intervals from the same sample, meaning they have the same sample size and the same standard deviation. But two intervals from the same sample are 72.2 to 77.8 and 71.3 to 78.7. One of them's at 95%, the other is at 99%. Just in general, if everything else is the same, then if you have a 95% confidence interval, if you want to be more confident, 99% confident, that means that you have to expand that interval a little bit more. If you want to be 100% confident, you got to go all the way from 0 to 100, which is not practical. That is why the answer is A in this case. Oh, I'm not talking to the microphone. That's why the answer is A in this case. Because with A, it is the smaller interval, 72.2 to 77.8 is actually smaller, more narrow than the other one. It's at 95%. The reason why it's not C and D is because since they have the same sample size and the same sample standard deviation, that's not going to affect the size of the interval. It just won't. Because in fact, hold on. And going back to this thing, I'll do the sigma one this time. There we go. If they have the same sample standard deviation and the same sample size, then this fraction will be the same. But if you change the confidence interval from 95% to 99%, that will change the Z star. There we go. Oh no, I'm about to fall. I seriously think one day I am going to fall and people are going to think that it's a bit. They're going to think that I'm did that on purpose. Oh, look at that. Mr. Mark even got fake blood. Okay, here we go. A little bit of reading, but we'll get this done. And then I'll flip it over. There we go. So, when leaving for school on an overcast morning, you make a judgment on the null hypothesis, being the weather will remain dry. What would the results of a type 1 and what would be the results of a type 1 and type 2 errors? Now, again, I do apologize for the glare. I'm going to try and fix that once I start the timer here. Oh, let's look at the updated standings. There's my updated standings, by the way. Did they only give me the top 5 for now? Blast. All right, next one. So let me see if I can't fix this. Okay, so for those of you in the chat, right here in the glare, it says type 1 error, carry an umbrella, and it rains. That's what it says right there. I just wanted to make sure that you knew what that was because that's where the glare is. It says type 1 error, carry an umbrella, and it rains. Oh, good. There we go. So the majority of people did correctly pick the answer. Should have been B in this case. Let me flip that. There we go. So there's the majority of people who picked it. Let's flip back to here and take a look. Well, the null hypothesis is, well, nothing's going to happen. That's the null hypothesis. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing out of the ordinary. The weather's going to remain dry. That's the null hypothesis. If you make a type 1 error, you are rejecting that null, but you're wrong. So you reject the null. You're saying, nope, the weather's not going to remain dry. I reject that. So you have an umbrella, but you're wrong. So you basically, as needlessly, carry around an umbrella. And then a type 2 error, You fail to reject that null hypothesis, but you're wrong in a type 2 error. If you fail to reject the null, saying like, yeah, there's not enough evidence, I'm going to go ahead and believe it's not going to rain. That's my hypothesis based on all of the evidence, blah, 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 blah. So you go out, no umbrella, but you're wrong, and it rains and you get drenched. And again, even with these like silly examples, in a type 1 error, you made a mistake, but you just carry around an umbrella all day for no reason. But in a type 2 error, you get soaked. That's usually the worst error, usually is type 2. Wow, let's see. That one. Okay. All right. Let's see where this takes us. This question, and then I'll click it. It says, an office manager believes that the percentage of employees arriving late is even greater than the previously claimed 7%. She conducts a hypothesis test on a random 200 employee arrivals and finds 23 punching in late. Is this strong evidence against the 0.07 claim? Now, just as a side note, I told you that the answer is not going to be E because I couldn't do that for Kahoot, and that is still true here. But when would the answer actually be E for this example? Well, if in that little paragraph, if she did not fulfill the assumptions and conditions for the hypothesis test, then if she did not fulfill that, then you could answer E. But I'm telling you, the answer is not E. It's not. So be very clear. Click, click. Here we go. Oh, and again, for those of you in the chat, C has the number 0.0062. It says is only 0.0062. And for part D, it says the p-value is over 0.10. See if I can move that over just a tiny bit. Oh, goodness. Sorry. There we go. I don't think it did that much of a difference. But at least you can see those words. I did it again. There we go. Doing that. Less than 5 seconds left. Ding. There we go. Unfreeze. There we go. Now, again, with this time limit, the reason why I'm putting in this time limit is because, again, I want you guys to get used to that feel of getting these things done in less than 2 minutes. Let's take a look at this. Now, I'm actually going to go to my calculator right here and show you what I would have typed into the calculator. Let me go to my one prop. I passed it. One prop z-test. The claim is 0.07. That is the null hypothesis. An office manager believes that the percentage of employees arriving late is even greater than the claimed 7%. She conducts a hypothesis test on a random 200 employees and finds 23 of them punching in late. The alternative hypothesis is what is the alternate claim that she believes. She believes that it's even greater than the claimed 7%. So I leave the alternate hypothesis as being greater than P sub 0. Now, again, according to this, I mean, sample size of 200, you could, do 0.07 times 200, and clearly it's more than 10 expected successes and failures. Everything's good there so far. Sample size is large enough. It says an office manager believes employees. She conducted the sample on 200 employees. I guess it's feasible to say that the office has more than 2,000 employees because she doesn't want to go over 10%. I guess that's feasible. I mean, I don't know how big this company actually is. But again, assumptions and conditions. It even says random sample. We can assume all those. I'm going to calculate, see what we get. Chapow! Right there. Point my pen at it. There we go. Right there. That P, that 0.0063 is the P value. That is the P value. Obviously, 0.0062 is the number on the card. That is why the answer for this one right here has to be A. Have to conduct the proper the proper hypothesis test on this particular problem. Yeah. Let's take a look at this one. Oh, let's see the scores real quick. I just wanted to see what it changed. Oh, they do let me scroll. Did they let me scroll? No, I clicked it. Crap. Time has already started. You don't even know the question. That was a complete accident. I apologize. An assembly line machine is supposed to turn out bowling balls with a diameter of 8.55 inches. Each day, a simple random sample of 5 balls are pulled and measured. If their mean diameter is under 8.35 inches or over 8.75 inches, the machinery is stopped and an engineer is called to make adjustments before production is resumed. The quality control procedure may be viewed as a hypothesis test with a null of 8.55 and an alternative of, the mu not equal to 8.55. What would a type 2 error result in? That is what the question is being asked. Now, again, those of you in the chat, just so we're all on the same page, you can kind of see most of it. It says an unnecessary stoppage of the production process, continued production of the wrong size bowling balls, continued production of the proper size bowling balls. So that's what's underneath the glare. Boom. Okay, flip that back. There we go. Most of us got that one. The answer being C. Let me flip back to the card. A type 2 error would be, and I'm not even looking at the card right now, but a type 2 error would be failing to reject the null. Failing to reject the null, but I'm wrong. That is a type 2 error. Jumping out of the plane with the parachute because I failed to reject the parachute and I'm dead. So in this card, failing to reject the null would being that, the diameter is fine. The diameter is fine. But I'm wrong. So type 2 error would result in continued production of the wrong size bowling balls. Yes, absolutely. Might have time for one or two more. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually skip the next question. Let me see if I can skip it right here. Don't click anything. I'm actually just going to skip it. Skip. Aha, everyone got that one wrong. Crap! I did it again. Okay, let's give this one a shot. I didn't mean to actually start this one, but this is the one that we're on. Which of the following are true statements? And I'll read them. The p-value of a test is the probability of obtaining a result as extreme as the one obtained, assuming the null hypothesis is true. If the p-value for a test is 0.043, the probability that the null hypothesis is true is 0.043. 3, when the null hypothesis is rejected, it is because it is not true. Again, the answer cannot be E. Okay, here we go. Boom. Okay, most of us got that one right. Let's take a look at the card. Chaboom. Yeah, it's got to be one only. Now let's talk about why real quick. First of all, number one is the definition of what a p-value is. It's the probability of obtaining those results or that sample as the one obtained, assuming that the null is true. That is the pure definition of what a p-value is. Now, 2, if the p-value for a test is 0.03, the probability that the null is true is 0.043? No, it's the probability of seeing those sample results, assuming that the null is true. And then when the null is rejected is because it is not true. No, if it's rejected, that just means that you had enough evidence to reject it, not that you're actually saying it's not true. Because there's always a possibility that when you reject it, you could be wrong. So the answer has to be A. Okay. I'm going to try one more. Yeah, we'll do this one. Yeah. This one. And then I'll show you the results. So we'll try to do this one quickly. Consider a hypothesis test with your null being mu equal 58 and your alternative being mu is greater than 58. Which of the following choices of significance level and sample size results in the greatest power of the test when mu is equal to 60? That. And there we go. And I'll show you the leaderboard after this question because we're going to call it quits after this question. just for the sake of time, because I'm waiting for the timer to run out. It'll run out in about 10 seconds. You want to raise the power of a test? You have to have a larger sample size, which means that the answer's got to be either C or D, the larger sample size. You want to have a greater power of your test? A greater power means a smaller beta. You want a smaller beta? You increase alpha, which is why, boom, yes, as most of you picked, the answer was C. So let's just see the leaderboard. And there we go. We'll leave it there because the bell's going to ring in about 10 seconds. That was a close game. Just saying. All right, no one's excited. But yeah, there's the bell. As I said, make sure you pay attention to Google Classroom. See you guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, it's Thursday. I won't see you all till Monday. Anyway. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. See you guys. Oh, I got to stop the live stream. So